It's great to be here. Thanks for the introduction, David. David is actually one of the amazing engineers on this project. So he's been building the Dutch exchange that I get to talk to you about today. And I actually have a few exciting announcements throughout the presentation, so I'm not going to talk to you merely about the mechanism, but I have some news that's never been announced before. So what is the Dutch exchange? The Dutch exchange is an open, decentralized trading protocol for ERC20 tokens, and it's using a Dutch auction mechanism to determine the fair value for tokens. Before I go into detail of what that means, let me tell you where we're coming from and why we've been building it the way we have been building it. So most decentralized and centralized exchanges are actually built upon the order book model. What is an order book model? You have your bids and your asks, you have a spread between, you can place limit orders and market orders for market participants. In other words, it's actually a continuous auctions because it processes all the orders as they come in, leading to discriminatory pricing. So we actually think this model in itself is already a little bit flawed. And some of the flaws I've listed here, one and possibly the main one is that is prone to front running. This applies to decentralized and centralized exchanges where actors, for example, the exchange or miners can act on information that is available to them ahead of time. You have high frequency traders, which is usually super algorithmic trades happening on really acting on high speed that are just nanoseconds quicker than other traders, extracting value out of the system. If you have overlapping order books and there's not an automatic matching happening of trades, you can also have arbitrage. The issue of a big spread and a high slippage is usually happening when you have very low volume in the market. So if you have very illiquid markets, such those that are not often traded. Keep this in the back of your mind, because that's the reason why we've built the Dutch exchange based on entirely two different models. So we don't think you can take the order book model and copy and paste it to the blockchain, because it is continuous, and on blockchain there's only block time. So we've come up with so we're implementing a model based on two different auction types. One is the best auction and one is the Dutch auction. So what's happening in two steps, if you want to imagine that somebody would like to trade token A for token B, in a first instance, the seller of token A will deposit all the tokens that they want to sell in a batch in A. So we accumulate that batch, we close the batch. That is basically the sell volume, and in a second step, it's being auctioned off in a Dutch auction. A Dutch auction is an auction, you might all know it from various ICOs, it's often used. It starts with a high price, and it falls until the market clears. Why is this really cool? Because all the bidders will pay the same final price, and they're incentivized to take part in the auction exactly at the moment in time where it reflects the highest willingness to pay, because they will end up paying on the last price, and otherwise they might miss out on taking part in that auction. So it's really cool. It's a single price clearing. Everybody pays the same in the end. There's no discrimination, no discriminatory pricing, and it reflects the true willingness to pay. I will quickly walk you through the token design applied in the Dutch exchange, because it will become relevant later on. So firstly, there is a token introduced called Magnolia. It is used for fee reduction, and it's being distributed to those trading on the exchange. One Magnolia is minted for every ether worth of trade of a whitelisted token. Whitelisted are those that are basically not merely created for the purpose of creating fake trading volume. It is used for fee reduction, so it's meant to benefit those who bring the liquidity to the exchange, because an exchange is only alive with the liquidity. Then also part of the fees, up to half of the fees, we allow participants to pay in OWL. OWL is a token that is created by locking down G&O, that's the Gnosis token, and as a matter of fact, that is happening right now. It's the first initial OWL generation that will finish Friday night. So if you hold G&O, make sure you lock it to obtain 10 times the amount in OWL, and of course you will have your G&O back. Thirdly, a really cool feature thereof, all the fees that are then paid remain in the ecosystem of the Dutch exchange. What does that mean? All fees are paid in the participating token, and they're attributed as an extra sell balance to the next running auction of the same pair. So there's always only one auction for each pair running at each time, and the fees obtained in the prior auction go to the fees to the next auction. It creates a stickiness, and it also rewards those people who are high volume traders and bring the liquidity to the exchange. Okay, so some advantages I just want to highlight that we find that this mechanism brings. So you don't have front running because everybody ends up paying the same price in the end. There's one single price clearing and we batch the orders. It is less volatile because it takes also a long time. And all the users obtain the same final price. And it's actually better for illiquid market in that sense as well. As I mentioned, due to the economic incentives in the mechanism, it will lead to a fairer price finding in the end for the users. Also, because all orders are fulfilled, there's never any gas incurred due to cancelled or non-fulfilled orders. It comes at the expense of quick trading, because an auction on average would run 6 hours, or at 6 hours the price curve is defined to reach the prior closing price, some kind of an indication, but we actually think this is a good thing because it rules out high frequency trader. So I've actually extracted 2 more advantages which lead us to the following and the following reasoning. So the entire Dutch exchange is tailored to the fact that other smart contracts can integrate. There is no need for any off-chain signing of transactions. There's no strategy needed to participate, and that is why smart contracts can integrate really well into it. And the outcome of it is also an on-chain price oracle, because there is a price feed created when the auctions close. So with that open protocol, what does that mean? Let's call the Dutch exchange an open protocol. I give you a little bit of a picture so you have this in mind. So there are kind of 3 layers, how you can see how the liquidity is brought to the exchange. On the first layer, you have the various interfaces that might be offered. Then you kind of have on-chain applications making use of the exchange to exchange tokens. So for prediction market, for example, it could be that outcome tokens become tradable. And then you have those smart contracts tailored in particular to interact with the Dutch exchange, such as, for example, lending and buyback contracts. So it's permissionless, there is no central entity changing any rules, so it should really facilitate easy innovation on top of the Dutch exchange, and there are really low barriers to entry. So this is really cool. And it leads to a price feed, which then in turn can also be used by various decentralized applications. Okay. So decentralized exchange is a super hype in 2018, right? And I think there's not only decentralized and non-decentralized exchanges, there's a whole scale of decentralization. So most exchanges, when they say we're decentralized, actually mean they're non-custodial. Non-custodial in the sense that they don't hold customer funds, which is great. But also we've developed this, so we think there are different building blocks to full decentralization. So I show you this. We are already kind of non-custodial is clear. I've told you about the pure on-chain mechanism, but it goes even further, right? So currently in the smart contract, there are various parameters that can be changed by a central entity. But this is being handed over very, very soon to a DAO, so that actually the entire Dutch exchange will be governed decentrally. That's not the last step. So with that latest MetaMask merge, actually, it'll become a reality super soon that ENS domains may resolve on IPFS hashes. What does that mean? It means that the interface also can be decentrally hosted and maintained. So we really think that then means it would be a fully decentralized exchange. So I want to tell you a little bit more about where we are today and what we are actually working on currently together with DAOstack. To do so, let's first talk about what actually are the parameters that somebody can change in the code. So we call them auctioneer powers of the Dutch exchange. There currently is 6, or there are 6. The threshold of adding a token, which is $10,000 at the moment. The threshold for auctions to start currently is $1,000. Then what I mentioned before, the whitelisting and de-whitelisting of tokens, of tokens that generate Magnolia, which is used for fee reduction. Then currently it's being used the on-chain MakerDAO price feed, which can be updated with a 30-day time lag as well. The same as the DX master contract, and I want to talk to you about the contract structure as well. And lastly, setting a new auctioneer can only be done by the auctioneer. So, I have something exciting. So, the DAO will actually take over governance of the Dutch exchange. What will happen very shortly is that 1 million reputation, which is the voting rights attributed to the DAO, will be distributed. Mainly to Magnolia holders, because we strongly believe it is the Magnolia's holders who are putting life into the exchange by attributing volume to it. Also some to GNO locking and to Ether locking, but very excitedly, this card, your Ether card, you will later be able to redeem some of the reputation to the address that is attached to your card. So hold on to that card. It will give you some governance stake. And if you think this is exciting, it gets even more exciting because we are actually live on mainnet with all our smart contracts. And I'll tell you in a minute what the smart contracts are. So this is the developer release, and all of you may now start building on top and using the Dutch exchange as the open protocol that it's meant to be. Where would you actually start integrating? So this is the contract structure of the Dutch exchange, mainly by the DX proxy. So the DX proxy basically only points, the idea of the proxy is to make the code upgradable. It only requests logic from the master, or the logic is obtained in the master and returned to the proxy. So the proxy holds actually all the historic data. It holds the funds, the whitelist, etc. So that in future versions of the Dutch exchange, this first mover advantage will never be lost, right? And it also then points towards the fee reduction contract, the Magnolia contract I mentioned, and the integration into the contract that leads to the MakerDAO. On the side, we have these 2 contracts. They are not really part of the DX contracts, but they have exactly the same logic, and it's the OWL contract here. So where developers would interact would be mainly with the proxy. This is where you would add new tokens, get the price feed, interact as seller, bidder, post, deposit, withdraw, claim. All these functions would be done in the proxy. Okay, so I've told you a little bit, we're live. How can you interact? But now the question, why would you want to do so? So firstly, all those advantages that are actually intrinsic to the Dutch exchange. As I mentioned, it's permissionless open protocol, which will attract the liquidity to that platform. It is decentrally run by a DAO, which is really cool. You will obtain Magnolia, which can be used for fee reduction and gives you part of the governance stake as well. And actually, it may also be traded on secondary markets as well. And then there's the fee redistribution. So if you trade a lot, you will also obtain fees from other participants. Then what's really cool also, a little bit of a more external incentivization is Gnosis X. So the Dutch exchange will be part of the next Gnosis X challenge, which is a developer challenge where you can win up to $100,000 in GNO token. If you want to know more about it, we have a booth upstairs about this as well. And then I think most importantly, it's to improve the ecosystem. So it's really, really cool. It will be the first fully decentralized, run and maintained piece of exchange. So it's a two-sided market platform. That means that it's really important to have those network effects. So the more liquidity there is on, the more liquidity will come. Right. So the tools, this presentation will be available to you shortly afterwards. I won't go into detail here, but you can always come and meet the developers also at our booth. And these are really good documentation, so feel free to look at that. So now, if you need even more reasons why do all that work, the interface, we've built an interface, and that is live on Rinkeby. So you have also all the details on that little card that you were distributed when you came to the conference. And I will, I was told to not do this, but I will try a live demo for you, okay? I just saw the few minutes.
Just kidding.
Okay. Let's see. I have a little video in case it fails. I heard you should have a backup. Okay. Can you all see this? So this is the interface. I'm logged into Rinkeby. Here you can see kind of the tokens that are traded on it and what I have as wallet balances. Here you can see if I can return and claim some of the auctions I've taken part. And importantly, please note, this is a seller interface. So I've told you, I've explained to you that it works in two instances. First, the seller deposit, then the bidder bids, right? Here, we only have the interface for the seller depositing, so it will take some time for them to come back and claim. I see how many Magnolias I've accumulated. They're locked, so I can't see them in my wallet, and what fee level that means. I have a wonderful side menu here. I can pick kind of the pair that I would like to exchange. So I would like to deposit Ether and receive Raiden. Let's go ahead and deposit 1 Ether. I will continue to my wallet details. I'll submit this. We actually have this neat feature that we're wrapping the Ether for the user, though we don't unwrap it because we actually want to incentivize the community to have wrapped Ether. I will confirm this. So I can approve for this trade, which I do, so I approve the token transfer. Then here it gives me the option, as I mentioned, to pay an OWL, and as I have OWL in my wallet, I might do so. I will not do this, so I can still show other people how it works. Otherwise, it will. I confirm this, and this actually will now take a little bit of time for the reason that we, with all the prior transactions, we are not waiting for the transaction to be mined. They're now all going to be mined now, so this will take about half a minute. How are we on time?
Oh, but as the developer of this project, watching a live demo, it's really stressful. We're good. We have like 2-3 minutes.
Excellent.
And you can always verify the token address down there with Etherscan. So based on the network, obviously Rinkeby here, you can go ahead and make sure that you're actually trading Raiden. So.
Yep.
And that really cool SVG, I made that.
The reason why we've kind of done it this way is that the user can now go and do something else rather than waiting for one transaction to be mined after the other. I get this neat auction overview page, which I can come later back to claim the Raiden that I have purchased. And this brings me back to the main page. Yeah. Thank you. Cool.